Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Vincent, and we are broadcasting live from the CBC headquarters. Our scheduled report on the daily life of a naval officer has taken a radical and unexpected turn as the naval crew has noticed smoke bellowing from a distant island. Upon arrival, the crew unloaded onto the island engulfed in flames and to begin to search. Among their discoveries were a hut, pig remnants, and a group of young boys. Here is Nicholas Rodriguez live on the water with more information.
When you first arrived on the island, your immediate instinct was to create a search party and uncover as much as possible on the island. Were there any peculiar findings on your expedition?
There were many intriguing things that we found on the island, but the most eerie and ominous things that we saw were out on the water. About half a kilometer from the island, we noticed 3 dead bodies floating out at sea, each bearing a fatal wound. One was a chubby boy with a cracked skull, the other a slim blonde boy with torn flesh, and the last was a dead parachutist with a gunshot wound to the chest. Once we arrived on the island, we noticed shelters along the shores made of twigs and palm leaves, and at the top of the mountain on the island, there were the dying embers of an old fire. We also discovered a pair of broken glasses and the skull of a decapitated pig. I should also mention that there were several white fragments scattered along the south side of the island.
What have the boys told you thus far about their experience on the island? Are there any things you can tell us for certain at this point? I know it's a bit early and there must be a lot more to be unraveled.
Considering how the boys were the only ones on the island, you'd expect their experiences to be playful, innocent, lighthearted, but from what I've heard, it was the exact opposite. The once pure children quickly became murderous savages, killing several pigs and even 2 of the fellow boys on the island. Most of the boys seem unfazed about committing such horrible acts of immorality, but there are a few, especially one boy named Ralph, who seems devastated.
From first meeting the boys and from the information you have drawn from them up to this point, in your opinion, what condition do the boys appear to be in, physically and mentally?
In comparison to when we first arrived on the island and now, I would have to say that the boys are much more stable. Once bearing wooden spears and being covered in tribal paints, the boys have now been cleansed of their savage appearances and look to be reinstated back into society with little to no issues. However, the boys, or some of them, appear still to be traumatized, and all of them are speaking about this unknown entity they call the Beast.
If it's okay with you, can you tell us how the other boys behave themselves on the island?
I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. The time that I spent on the island was awful. The other boys on the island made life a living hell, and that was even before they set it on fire. The little sense of democracy that we had on the island quickly became neglected as the boys stopped respecting the opinions of others to stick in their own 2 cents. Soon after the loss of democracy, our sense of innocence began to fade. The boys were killing pigs in barbaric fashion, and they even killed Simon, my dear friend Piggy.
Did you notice any differences in the boys while alone on the island? Did no rules, adults, or civilization have an impact or toll on day-to-day life?
When really we should have been working cooperatively to survive on the island and eventually be rescued. It was a struggle for dominion. In the absence of the natural authority that comes from an adult, I tried to give assurance to the boys and let everyone voice their opinions. But the longer that we stayed on the island, the further they distanced themselves from society. Before I knew it, they took an interest in chanting and dancing and hunting, and all of a sudden 2 boys were dead, and I was next on the hit list.
Thanks, Nick, for presenting this extraordinary and unique story. Our utmost condolences goes out to these poor children and their families, and we hope that they may grieve and move on from their dramatic experiences. Vincent, your host, with the most, signing out for CBC News.